In today's video, I wanted to go through and discuss all of the Daedric Shrine quests featured in the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Unlike its successors, Oblivion and Skyrim, there are only 7 active shrines that the player can interact with, meaning 9 of the Daedric princes, overlooking Jiggalag, are excluded from this segment of the game. The gods who are a part of it though are Azura, Boethiah, Malacath, Mehrunes Dagon, Mephala, Molag Bal, and Sheogorath. Like past and future events, each prince has their own motive, trial, or game that they need the player's help with. At the end of each successful quest, a powerful and unique reward is gifted to the Nerevarine. I'll start by going through each mission, and then at the very end, I'll give my overall thoughts and opinions. As per usual, the facts and information are brought to you by the game itself and the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. Starting off first is Boethiah's Shrine. The Dark Warrior statue is probably one of the trickier ones to locate. Unless your character is an avid diver, I don't think you'll be organically finding this one. However, there is someone on Vvardenfell who can help you out with this. East of the main island that holds Dagon Fell, over in the Sheogorath region, you'll find a lone Khajiit. His setup is rather odd. The only things on the island with him are a fishing rod and a chair. However, fans will recognize this legendary character as Ma'ik the Liar. Ma'ik knows much, tells some. He has a lot of fascinating dialogue prompts. A lot of them you probably wouldn't have seen anywhere else in Morrowind. The one we want for today though is the Shrine of Boethiah. Ma'ik tells the player to look to the seas to the west. The shrine is now underwater and lies on the ocean floor. Technically, the Khajiit's description is a little vague. If you didn't know any better, you'd probably start diving off the west coast of the Sheogorath region. The journal, however, is a bit more specific. The player is to travel to the fishing village of Hlaoad and check the waters there. With a narrower search site laid out, you can travel west and take the plunge. Now, the Lost Daedric ruin is west-northwest of Hlaoad. You pretty much have to line up next to the ruins of Ashur-Nabibi and head straight into the water. As soon as you've taken care of any hostiles, the Lost Shrine shouldn't be too much further ahead. You'll see scenes straight out of Atlantis, including a demolished statue at its center. Getting in close, the shrine appears to be inactive. That is, until the player interacts with Boethiah's head.
What do you want with me, mortal? My shrine is in ruins. My priests have forgotten me. Will you rebuild my shrine, mortal? Restore it in all its glory? Accomplish this, and I will reward you. You will be the bearer of Goldbrand, my sword of legend. There is one who can help you do this for me. Listen, rough hands to smooth stone, carving rock instead of bone. In Caldera, an artist waits his masterpiece to create. Find the one who may shape the rock. Go.
With your task laid out, the first step is finding the sculptor in the town of Caldera. Asking around, nobody knows of any stoneworker, but they think Varric Germain, one of the local traders, might have a lead. Paying him a visit, the Breton says that there's an orc across the street in Gorak Manor who fits the bill. Gorak Manor is filled with orcs and even a friendly scamp named Creeper. It might take you a bit to get to the right person, but Duma Grolag on the top floor seems to be the sculptor. Using the age-old throw the rock really far method, he's able to create beautiful pieces. He asks if the player is interested in buying any, and this is where you can commission him to rebuild the Shrine of Boethiah. Duma seems to be interested in the project, but first, he needs 2,000 septums for materials and a visual representation of what to build. He recommends checking the local booksellers for some texts. Ideally, these will have pictures and descriptions. Now, if you know Morrowind, you'll know that Jobasha over in Vivec has most quest-related books. When someone asks you to find a copy of a text, Jobasha is the one to see. As it would turn out, he indeed has Boethiah's Glory for sale. Purchasing it and returning to Duma, the orc takes the 2,000 septums as well as the book. He says that he's found a place to build the statue and needs ample time to recruit assistants as well as to work. He's going to be erecting it at Kartag Point, not far from the fishing village of Narmok. At this point, the player needs to wait 21 in-game days for the shrine to be completed. You can either go about your adventures, tackling other quests and storylines, or no life it like me and force 21 separate waits. Either way, arriving at the point of interest, you'll now see a giant, whole statue dedicated to the Daedric prince, Boethiah. Grolag is still on site, and speaking with him, he confirms that the shrine is now complete. He comments on how it's a shame that this important orcish site has been claimed for something else, but given how dangerous it is, it's probably a good thing that they gave it up. Interacting with the statue, Boethiah speaks to the player once more.
You have done well. This shrine is a and my power will again be felt. Take this, mortal. Wield the gold brand with a strong hand, and let all know that my shrine has risen.
As a reward, the Daedric god gives you the unique one-handed longblade, Goldbrand. It has powerful base stats and the enchantment of fire damage for 10 to 30 points per strike. This is my main weapon of choice in Oblivion, and there's a chance that Morrowind might follow suit. With that, thus ends Boethiah's Daedric Shrine quest. The next mission for today is going to be Malacath's. The Furious One statue is located in a more traditional spot than the previous one. The Daedric ruins of Azura are located on the westernmost island of the Sheogorath region. It has Daedric forces on the outside and Orcish guardians on the inside. Once the way through is clear, you can interact with Malacath's statue.
You have summoned me? Humph! You are all the same, but perhaps you can be of use to me. I have in my possession the helm of Orion Bearclaw, the Dark Elven hero. His deeds are numerous, but he was a false hero. All were performed by Karag Brokar, his orcish friend. It is time this legend was put to rest. Find the last of his bloodline, kill him, and I will grant you the helm. Look for him in the city where the man-god lives.
If you're an Oblivion nerd like I am, you'll recognize the helm of Orion Bearclaw. It's the very same one that gets handed to you at the end of the Fighters Guild questline. The first step to finding Orion's descendant is by asking around in Vivec. Most people are more than willing to sing the praises of Bearclaw. They say that his legacy continues through a descendant named Favrin Orain. Favrin, a powerful battle mage, is currently in Narmok with some servants, no doubt carrying out a noble deed. Visiting the fishing village and asking around there, the citizens will tell you that Orain is currently on the southern side of town, taking care of some renegade netches, apparently making the town once again safe for fishing. Wandering south, you'll see the carnage left behind by the group. Soon after, you'll spot the three men are wandering back and forth through the area. They're armed to the teeth and will undoubtedly put up a counterfight. Singling out Favrin, you can bring up Bearclaw's companion, Kara Grokar. Orain stumbles on his words and then folds under the pressure. He admits to knowing that his ancestor was a fraud and that it's hard to uphold the family name. He finishes by asking why exactly you've sought him out. This is where you can tell Favrin that Malacath sends his regards. Doing so incites a fight. Orain and his companion, Draenus, are mages and they'll start the battle with ranged attacks. The third, Vala, is a knight and will lunge in for close combat. Funny enough, Favrin's bodyguards are a much higher level than he is, making them the more formidable opponents. Once the trio has been defeated and any desired gear looted, you can return to Malacath's shrine in Azura and interact with it.
You have killed the false hero and ensured there will be no more to follow. You have helped bring back honor to the Orcish people, and for that, I am glad. Here, take the helm of Orion Bearclaw, wear it proudly, and let it serve as a reminder of what really happened.
The helm of Orion Bearclaw is a magnificent looking, heavy armor headpiece. It has the enchantments of Fortify both agility and endurance for 40 points. With that, thus ends Malacath's Daedric Shrine quest. The next mission for today is Mehrunes Dagon's quest. The Lord of Change's shrine can be found on the western coast of Vardenfell. Just past the dwarven ruins of Arkenthensturdums is Ysamadan. Ysamadan is guarded by Daedric forces both on the outside and on the inside. Thrown into the mix too are a handful of worshippers. If the player has done the Molag Bal questline, you're more than likely familiar with this dungeon. Once the way forward is clear, the Prince of Destruction statue can be interacted with.
Why do you call on me, little mortal? Do you seek your death so soon?
I should crush you where you stand. Yet you show mettle by even approaching me. How ambitious are you, little one? Would you like a chance to prove your worth to me?
This is the first quest so far that's given the player the option to participate in. In order to progress further, you select, I wish to prove my worth.
You are brave, or foolish. Perhaps both. This then is your chance to prove your courage. My razor, slayer of man and myrrh, scourge of all who stand before it, lies dormant, stolen by an unworthy bearer, an elf of little courage or consequence. It lies unused, gathering dust in the Alas tomb near Molag Bal. Return it to me, mortal. Prove yourself to be a worthy bearer of Mehrunes' razor.
The task laid out is fairly simple. First things first though, you need to find the Alas ancestral tomb. The only tip that Dagon gives you is that it's not far from Molag Bal. Unfortunately, a lot of places aren't far from Molag Bal, and searching could take you a while. Eventually though, through perseverance and a keen eye, you'll locate the crypt north of Mount Kand, southwest of the Arabinimson camp in the Molag Bal region. The Alas tomb is crawling with various forms of Daedra. Atronachs, Ogrim, Hunger, Clanfear, you name it. Once the dungeon is cleared though, the search for Mehrunes' razor can begin. Looking high, looking low, in containers, on inventories, a magnificent otherworldly blade is nowhere to be found. Instead, on the skeletal remains of someone named Varner Hilera, all you'll find is a rusty dagger. It's definitely nothing special, and even a lower level player wouldn't want to use it. With nothing else to show for your efforts though, you take it and return to Ysamadan. Upon getting close to Dagon's statue, you'll receive a journal update. It says that the rusty blade was likely once the dagger of legend. Now it's nothing more than scrap metal. However, interacting with the shrine once more, Mehrunes is able to work his magic.
You found my razor. Good. Can you feel its hunger? Can you feel its frustration? Now I will make it again what it once was, what it shall always be. Draw a line of blood across the land in the name of Mehrunes Dagon.
The rusty knife has been transformed into Mehrunes' razor, a deadly and powerful blade. It has the enchantments of Disintegrate Armor for 6 to 25 points, Poison for 6 to 20 points, and the ability to inflict a 20% weakness to poison for 20 seconds. With that, thus ends Mehrunes Dagon's Daedric Shrine quest. The next mission for today is Mephala's quest. The web spinner has what I would deem the most unique shrine. It's definitely tied for first with Boethiah's. In fact, it isn't even necessarily a shrine, or rather a statue like what we've been seeing. It's a lot simpler than that. If you played through the Molag Bal's questline, then you'll know just how important of a figure she is to the assassins. So it's fitting that her place of worship, an altar, is in the Molag Bal's base, underneath Vivec City's arena. The quest giver for this one is also different than what we're used to. Taros Thrall, a member of the faction, mentions needing to discuss some sensitive matters with the player. Taking him up on it, he says that Mephala herself has given him important information. Said information needs to be acted upon immediately, and you're offered the choice of whether or not you'd like to help. Selecting yes, Taros says that one of the Tong's members, Balin Omavel, has been freelance killing. This is looked down upon in the faction, and he needs to be taken out before he tarnishes the guild's reputation. It has to be done discreetly though, as Balin's brother is a respected member in their brotherhood. So, Thrall gives the player 5 treated bitter green petals and tells you to poison his food with them. Omavel lives in Balmora, and in order to complete this quest, you have to be very careful casing his home. Approaching the front door will fail the mission, as Balin is standing nearby and gets suspicious of your presence. Instead, the safest way inside is through the trapdoor located on the roof. Once you've gained entry, the bitter green petals can be placed in the cauldron lining the western wall. From here, be sure to leave the same way you came in, and once you're in the clear, you can return to the Molag Bal's guild hall. Chatting with Taros and bringing up the sensitive matters, he says that Mephala wishes to speak with you directly, and that you should approach her altar. Doing so and interacting with it, the web spinner speaks.
You have done well, mortal. There are some things that must be done to preserve the order, and it will be amusing for me when this business comes to light. I look forward to it. Take this ring, mortal. Through the brightest day, it will carry you with speed and stealth. Leave me now.
As a reward, the Daedric Prince gifts you the Ring of Khajiit, an enchanted piece of jewelry that when cast provides invisibility for 30 seconds, as well as a fortification to speed by 10 to 20 points for 30 seconds as well. With that, thus ends Mephala's Daedric Shrine quest. Next is Azura's Daedric quest. Maybe you heard about its location, or maybe you've seen her giant statue while adventuring through the coastal region. Azura's shrine lies on the east-southeastern side of Vardenfell. For my method of transportation, I paid Blata Hateria for passage to Halamayan. From there, I leapt and levitated my way south, up until I spotted the hulking figure on the horizon. Unless you're actively exploring the coast, I feel as though it's an easy waypoint to miss, especially if there's fog, or if you have a short rendering distance. This was the first time I had seen a monument to one of the Daedric princes outdoors and this big. The surrounding area is filled with nuisance creatures, but the exterior is relatively void of life. Just beneath the statue itself is an entrance to the shrine. Going on in, the place was fairly empty. Of course, there were Daedric constructs, decorations, and structures, but there were no NPCs, creatures, or loot. At the back of the room was another shrine to Azura. This one was more akin to what I've seen around other Daedric ruins. Going up to and interacting with it, the goddess spoke to me.
You have come here for a reason, though you may not know what it is. Sheogorath and I have made a wager. He contends that solitude causes madness, while I maintain it allows for solace and meditation. To test this, I sent one of my priestesses to live alone on an island north of Dagonfell. If she can live there for 100 years, continuing her life of prayer, my theory will be proven. If not, Sheogorath wins our wager. The time has almost passed, and she remains steadfast. But Sheogorath has tried to sway the decision in his favor. Travel there, rid the island of his minions, and bring back proof of his meddling. Do not disturb the wise woman, though, as that would void our wager. Serve me, and I will reward you well.
My mind was blown a little bit as I wasn't used to there being much spoken dialogue in this game. Do the other Daedric princes speak like this when their quests are embarked on? I guess that's something I'll have to find out for myself. It always feels like there's some sort of bet or competition going on between the princes, and through them, they always seem to showcase their power over the common folk. In this instance, this poor priestess is trying to be a humble servant to Azura, but Sheogorath has taken it upon himself to mess with their wager and interrupt her meditation. Or at least that's the way the story is spun. I have to say, this doesn't feel like a very Sheogorath-esque thing to do, but that's exactly why it does seem like something he'd do, if that makes sense. Taking the various boat surfaces to the island of Dagonfell, I looked to the north and began searching for this secluded island. As it would turn out, and is stated by the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, this isolated region of Sheogorath happens to be more northwest of Dagonfell. Without knowing that, you might have wasted some time checking around a couple of the other islands, unless of course you love the adventure. Arriving on location, my levitation spell ran out of juice at the perfect time, as my landing spot was the priestess's hut. Surveying the scene, I saw that I had my work cut out for me. Lined up nearby were two Hunger, a Daedroth, and a Golden Saint. Making the Saint my first target, she fought with a glass sword and shield. As our brawl raged on, the other enemies began closing in and were letting off some powerful spells. Staying focused and continuing to swing away, she was soon defeated. What I didn't see at the time was that upon Stada's death, as she was a named NPC, I received a journal update, notifying me that the job here was done. I was under the assumption that I had to rid the entire island of any Daedric presence, so that's what I sought out to do. As soon as the first 4 threats were taken care of, I looked into Stada's inventory and spotted an intriguing ring called Sheogorath's Signet. It had the enchantment of fortifying personality for 10 points, but also the curse of draining willpower for 10 points. This was the piece of evidence that Azura needed. Once ready, I moved a little further inland and came across the next 2 opponents, a Flame Atronach and a Storm Atronach. With low fatigue and no potions to help, I found myself in a pretty sticky spot. Fortunately, through some magical regen and a good old tactical retreat, I was able to stand my ground once more and defeat the elementals. My character is a pretty high level, and even I had some slight difficulty with this one, so I could only imagine approaching this at a lower level. The last Daedric enemy on the island was an Ogrim, an enemy I so wish we could have seen in Oblivion or Skyrim. I'm sure Bethesda would have made this thing even bigger and more menacing. With things wrapped up here, I followed the prince's specific instructions and didn't interrupt the priestess's meditation. Recalling to Vivek and traveling to the coastal region, I entered the shrine area and activated the statue.
Well done, mortal. You have preserved the integrity of my wager with Sheogorath. Now it will end as fated, and not due to the meddling of the Daedra prince. Take this, and use it wisely.
Looking at my inventory, she gifted me the artifact known as Azura's Star, and I got to keep Sheogorath's signet. Familiar with this piece from Oblivion, Azura's Star is a reusable soul gem, capable of holding any soul. Obviously, it's best used for enchanting, but according to the UASP, it can also be utilized to capture all Malexia's soul and then sold to a vendor for a maximum of 7,500,000 septums. Who in the game would actually buy it and provide that much value is beyond me, but I'm sure you know more about it than I do, so I'd love to know in the comments below. Now, because I was interested in knowing the outcome, I went through the alternative ending where the priestess is disturbed. Entering Reyna Drolin's shack, she immediately called out to me asking what I was doing here and telling me to leave. With that came a journal update, and I knew I was in for a scolding. Returning to Azura at her shrine, she had this to say.
You have caused me to lose my wager, mortal. Now it matters not that Sheogorath meddled in the outcome of our wager. You have failed. But it seems that is your fate.
That would certainly be disheartening to lose a 100-year-long wager in that way. The person you send out to help combat the other participants' cheating ends up ruining everything. Of course, with this outcome, no star, no unlimited soul gem, and no 7.5 million gold. With that, thus ends Azura's Daedric Shrine quest. The second last mission for today is Molag Bal's quest. The Lord of Domination's statue can be found in the Daedric ruins of Yansaramis. Yansaramis is located west of Tel Aran on an island that sits right beside the mainland. The outside and inside is guarded by men, Mer, and Daedric forces. The statue itself lies by the entranceway of the dungeon, and once the coast is clear, Bal can be interacted with.
Why do you summon me now? I have no time for your pleadings, weakling. I have other matters that need my attention. Mentana! He will pay for his insolence. Listen well. Those in my service will do my bidding, or they will suffer eternal torment. You will serve me, mortal. Mentana has grown careless and lazy. He sits in his wretched cave while life on the surface goes on unmolested. He was spawned a creature of terror. His role is to sow fear and discord among men and mer, yet he is content to stay locked in his cave and mock my will. Kill him, mortal. Set his soul flying to the outer realms so that I might show him eternal torture for his disobedience. Take this key. You will find him in the caves of Corridor, east of Kogorun. Kill this lazy fool for me, mortal. Do this, and you will have my favor.
If you've played through the main questline, you're probably very familiar with the Dunmer stronghold of Kogorun. If not, it's located in the central northern part of Vardenfell, just northeast of Margon. Similar to the A-list tombs from Molag Bal's quest, Corridor can be quite tricky to spot. It's well situated in the ashy hills and boulder fields of the Ashlands region. However, Bal's directions are pretty spot on, as the cave is directly east of Kogorun. Finding it and heading on inside, the player is actually met with very little resistance. You'll find very few basic Daedric enemies, only a Storm Atronach and a Daedroth stand in your way. Traversing the various pathways, you'll soon come across a small makeshift throne room. This is where the minion, Mentana, is set up. Mentana is a level 20 Daedroth and has the same abilities as any old bipedal crocodile. Killing Mentana is likely easier for high level players and challenging for low level ones. Either way, once Na has been sent back to Oblivion, you can loot the area of its Daedric staff, the randomized Daedric weapon drop on Mentana, and the only lootable piece of Daedric skin found on a Daedra. Returning to Yen Seremis, Molag Bal's shrine can be interacted with once more.
You have freed the soul of Mentana. Torment will be his. Endless agony is all he will know until the end of time. You have performed well, mortal. Perhaps you will be my servant to him one day. Take this and use it well. Bring strife and discord with you wherever you may travel. Now, go!
As a reward, Bal gives the player the Mace of Molag Bal. It's a one-handed blunt weapon and has the enchantments of Absorb Strength by 1 to 15 points for 30 seconds, as well as Absorb Magicka by 1 to 20 points for another 30 seconds. With that, thus ends Molag Bal's Daedric Shrine quest. The final mission for today is Sheogorath's quest. The Mad God's Shrine is in a slightly more convenient place and shares a city with Mephala's altar. Below the St. Delan Canton, deep in the underworks, is a secret area called Hinny Pallet. Hinny Pallet has a guard posted outside, as well as 3 more hostile worshippers on the inside. The zone is rather small and really only contains Sheogorath's statue, as well as a tiny living area. Once safe, the player can interact with the shrine.
What is it, mortal? Have you come to be of service to Sheogorath? That in and of itself speaks toward your madness. This pleases me. Fetch the Fork of Horripilation from the Mad Hermit near Aldredania. Take care with him. He's not the most stable man. Use the fork wisely, mortal. Few have wielded it who have not come away changed. Use the fork to strike a death blow to the giant bull Netch that resides near the hermit. Do this. Return the Fork of Horripilation to me, and Sheogorath will reward you well.
It's definitely strange not hearing Wes Johnson's voice for this role. At this point, he's pretty much become synonymous with Uncle Sheo. Oblivion players might recognize the Fork of Horripilation as the same one needed during one of the Shivering Isles side quests. What's more, you'll probably recognize the Mad Hermit as well. He lives on a small island in the northwestern pocket of the Sheogorath region. Other than a long walk, or rather swim, and some nuisance creatures, it's not a difficult trek. On the center of the island is a small shack. Running up to it, you'll spot its nameplate and see that it belongs to someone named Bighead. Bighead's shack is quite quaint, and other than some basic necessities and a lot of enchanted spears, there's not much else to it. Speaking with the Argonian, he's certainly quite the madman. He knows that Sheogorath has sent you, and sort of asks what you need from him. Inquiring about the Fork of Horripilation, he rants on about singing and weeping and leaping. Finally, he says something along the lines that you're free to take the fork. Lastly, when asked about the giant bull Netch, Bighead says that it brings him cake and to tip your hat, and calls it a fish. Really though, the most useful thing he tells you is to look to the east. The fork can be found on Bighead's table. It has some pretty bad base stats, and furthermore has the curse of draining the user's magicka for 200 points. It's definitely not something you make your main weapon, although that would be a pretty interesting playthrough. The island directly east of Bighead's is where the bull Netch could be found. Now, if you're like me and have a pretty poor short blade skill, draining this thing's health can be a nightmare. However, all you have to do is kill the beast with the fork. Getting it down to that final bit of HP can be done by any means. Furthermore, the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages details that even switching to the fork before the Netch completes its death animation does the trick. In any case, once it's defeated, you'll receive a journal update and are free to return to Hinny Pallet.
I see you have completed my little errand. Well done. Perhaps you've gotten a taste of madness as well? Do not believe madness to be a curse, mortal. For some, it is the greatest of blessings. A bitter mercy, perhaps, but mercy nonetheless. Give me the Fork of Horripilation. I believe I have something more suitable for your needs. Go now. Remember what you have seen.
In exchange for the Fork of Horripilation, Sheogorath gives the player the Spear of Bitter Mercy. It has the enchantments of reflect 20 to 30% for 30 seconds, as well as summon a Storm Atronach for 30 seconds. With that, thus ends Sheogorath's Daedric Shrine quest. With all of the Daedric quests out of the way, let's talk about them. And for fun, I decided to rank them from 1 to 7, with 1 being my favorite and 7 being my least favorite. Keep in mind that my likes, dislikes, and tastes likely differ from yours. With that being said though, I'd be interested to know how you'd rank them down below. Beginning with the first one, Boethiah's, I actually thought the whole premise was quite clever and unique. Meeting up with a fan favorite, Maik the Liar, is always a pleasure. It was also neat to see that he finally had a role in one of these quests. Next, discovering a broken statue at the bottom of the sea and receiving a task to erect a new one was also really intriguing. I feel like that's a premise Oblivion stepped away from, having all shrines as a formal complete statue, and Skyrim then started to bring back. It's interesting that this Daedric ruin is placed right beside Ashur-Nabibi. It almost feels like lore-wise the latter was built as a replacement shrine when the former fell to Davy Jones's locker. Beyond this quest's uniqueness though, it was actually rather short and simple. There wasn't any necessary combat, and Molag wasn't a difficult person to find. If anything, the longest part was waiting those 21 pesky days for the build to finish. Now, every character's needs are different, so it doesn't feel completely fair to judge each shrine's reward. However, Goldbrand is one of my favorite swords, and it felt good to be reunited with it once more. Plus, it goes a long way for my character and their long blade skill. Overall, I'd place this quest at number 2, just 1 off from being my favorite of the bunch. Next up is Malacath's quest. I really enjoyed my time playing through it. Reaching Azura wasn't as entertaining as, say, diving to the ocean floor, but it was nice to get the traditional experience while dealing with the Daedric Prince. Speaking from a personal bias, I was pretty awestruck when Malacath brought up the helm of Orain Bearclaw. If you've watched other videos here on this channel, you'll know that Oblivion is my favorite Elder Scrolls game, so hearing name drops and references like that just butters my bread. Knowing that the person who returned the helm to Modron Orain was the Nerevarine, your character in Morrowind, is incredible. Also, knowing that Modron is a true example of what Bearclaw was supposed to be for the people, that's something else entirely. Hearing the false lore on Orain and the correct lore on Kara Grokar was also an eye-opener. Then, to get to hear everyone talk proudly about Fávrin and how heroic he is, knowing that his ancestor was a fraud, icing on the cake. Now, technically we don't really know if Fávrin was a better man than Bearclaw. He did apparently fight off a Dremora Lord to save the people of Vivec, but given the family track record, that's probably a lie. He also slew some otherwise docile Netches by Narmok, with 2 other warriors mind you, so if anything, they're probably doing all of the work and he's taking all of the credit. The cycle continues. It's because of everything that was discussed for this mission, it gets ranked as my favorite Daedric quest in Morrowind. Next is Mehrunes Dagon's quest, and to be honest, I was a little disappointed with it. There was nothing that really enticed me or drew me into its story. It was a rather simple fetch quest that had confusing directions on where to go. I guess Mehrunes' razor being a rusty dagger and psyching out the player was a clever detail, but other than that, it just didn't provide much at all. The razor is a really nice short blade, so I'll give it that. This part isn't really something that I'm judging the quest on, but I was a little disappointed to see that it didn't have the same enchantment as it does in Oblivion and Skyrim. To me, the chance of an insta-kill is what made the dagger so alluring in the first place. It's for all of these reasons, minus the last one, but mostly the ones at the beginning, that it gets number 7. It's not a bad quest, I'm sure there are many players out there who enjoy its straightforward plot, but it ranks last for me. Next is Azura's quest. Now, if you're keen, you'll have noticed that Azura's portion was formatted differently from the rest. That's because it's the one and only standalone video from this list. The idea was to do each quest individually, but to be honest, most of them don't have that much meat to them. In any case, the whole end segment of that video included thoughts, theories, and ideas on the mission. Since it was my first Daedric quest in the game, the whole concept was novel and exciting. Looking back though, the premise was actually quite strange. Azura is Morrowind's Galadriel. She gently nudges the Nerevarine in the right direction, while others help you on your journey. To me, it feels pretty beneath the player and the goddess to go from saving Vvardenfell to then refereeing her wager with Sheogorath. Don't get me wrong, I didn't mind the plot, but I just thought that maybe it was better suited for another Daedric prince, perhaps Periite or Meridia. It does retain some points though, as ignoring her instructions is an option, which then leads to quest failure. This is also one of the few quests where you technically get 2 Daedric artifacts, Sheogorath's Signet Ring and Azura's Star. Azura's Star is potentially the most universally useful item in the game. No matter the player's build, almost everyone needs soul gems. All in all, I've placed this one at number 5. It's not bad, it's quite fun actually, it's just not up there as my favorite. Next is Mephala's quest, and similar to Boethiah's, I thought the introduction to it was rather unique. Instead of venturing into a ruin, battling Daedra and interacting with the statue, you get the quest from a friendly Molag Bal guildmate. Now, there's something that I didn't really touch upon for this quest and I couldn't really find an answer for. I'm pretty sure you have to be a member of the guild in order to talk about those sensitive matters with Taros. The UESP doesn't say one way or another, but I don't think Taros trusts the player with that info if they're not part of the Tom. In any case, the actual content for this quest was pretty enticing. It's very fitting that it's an assassination contract and that it's on a renegade guildmate, a premise that we didn't really see too much of, if any, in the actual questline. I was the schmuck who tried Balin's front door first and ended up failing the mission. I have to give props to the game for that one. Of course, things would never be that easy. As for the Ring of Khajiit, it's a very utility-based item. I wouldn't say that it's something I would personally rely on, as it's best for stealth characters. Overall, Mephala's quest gets ranked at number 4 for me, nice and in between. Second last for today is Molag Bal's quest, and unfortunately for the House of Troubles, it's not really at the top for me either. A bounty mission to kill Mehrunes, a lazy Daedroth, doesn't really excite me that much. It essentially felt like I went into a Daedric dungeon and slew a handful of enemies. It didn't have that spice or twist to it. Maybe if Mehrunes was not hostile and tried to negotiate a deal, or there was something more to the lore, I could appreciate it a little more. The Mace of Molag Bal is always a pleasure to wield, even though my character isn't proficient with blunt weapons. Maybe because Bal plays a bigger role in curing vampirism, they spared some expenses with this quest, but in any case, it falls to number 6 for this list. Last topic of discussion for this video is Sheogorath's quest. Sheogorath helps to bell curve the House of Troubles because I enjoyed my time carrying out his work. I thought his shrine location was in a new and interesting spot. Mephala's is slightly better in my opinion. Maybe if they really wanted to spice things up, they could have tossed it in Balmora or Aldrune, but I suppose Vivec works fine too. I felt as though his mission was very on brand for his personality. Finding a madman, taking a strange item from their collection, and killing a bullnetch with it didn't really make a lot of sense, and that's why it's perfect. It was strange not hearing Wes Johnson as the voice actor though, as that part threw me for a loop. Not something I can fault the game for. It was really neat seeing Big Head for the first time in the elderscrolls, knowing that he plays a similar role in the Shivering Isles DLC for Oblivion. The Spear of Bitter Mercy is one of the best spears in the game if I recall correctly. Why that interests me is because there aren't as many unique spears as say swords, and my character started out as a spear user, so it's nice to see a little bit of love in that category. Overall, Sheogorath's quest gets placed at number 3 for me. I'd love to hear your thoughts and rankings on Morrowind's Daedric quests, and until next time, keep on adventuring.